Good evening, everyone. Warm welcome to Super Coaching Regulatory Bodies YouTube channel by Testbook. My name is Madhav Sir. I welcome you all in a very important session. So before we start the discussion, may I have a reply in the comment section that I'm audible, visible, everything is fine, we are good to go, so that we can begin the discussion without any further delay. So today we are going to cover the current affairs for 7th to 9th of August. And today's current affairs session is going to be really very important because we will be discussing one of the important update given by RBI. Along with that, we will be discussing one of the important update given by SEBI. So these two news which we are going to cover today, they hold good importance for your upcoming examination. So this session is a must watch session. Do watch this session till the end if you want to understand both the updates which have been given by SEBI and RBI recently, from which the question is surely going to be asked in the examination. ठीक है जी? I hope you all are ready. चलो. So before I start with my discussion, guys, on Saturday the class was not conducted due to the obvious reason, but don't worry, as I always do, I will be completing those backlogs in my upcoming sessions itself, as we will be covering 7th to 9th today, and then the rest of the days will be covered in the upcoming sessions to go. ठीक है जी? If you want to download the PDF of this particular session, that will be available in annotated form as well as without annotation on my Telegram channel. This is the link. You can search me by my handle, that is @Madhav Arora, or you can directly scan the code to join the link. Here we go with the first question from the previous day news. So पिछले सेशन से जो क्वेश्चंस हमने या जो न्यूज़ हमने कवर की थी उसके बेसिस पे I have few questions for you. Let's give a quick revision. First news is related to RBI has launched 3 reforms to deepen the financial inclusion. So these 3 reforms, they were basically related to claim settlement, standardized claim settlement and all. So we have a question which says, which of the following statement best reflect RBI's reform on claim settlement and retail investment access? RBI Retail Direct now allows retail SIP investment in equity mutual funds? No, sir. What is this? So this is basically कि अब जो RBI का जो e-Kuber platform है, उस e-Kuber platform पर individuals like you and me, they can open up, we can open up retail direct account. These are the gilt accounts which are opened up by individuals like you and me, which has been offered since 2022, जिसकी मदद से we can directly invest in the government securities. अब इसी पर SIP भी allow कर दी है, that is systematic investment plan is allowed, where your investment will be done only and only in the government securities. यहाँ investment equity mutual funds में नहीं होगी. So on that particular basis, A statement is wrong. A simplified claim settlement framework will apply to deposit accounts, lockers and articles in safe custody. That is absolutely correct. Retail Direct was initially launched in 2020. No, sir, it was initially launched back in 2022. The new reform aims to reduce legal delays in transferring deceased customer assets. That is correct. Treasury bills offered on Retail Direct are available with different days of maturity, but up to 364 days, which include 91 days, 182 days and 364 days. So technically answer is going to be B, D, E are the correct answer for the given question. ठीक है जी? Clear हो गया? समझ आ गया? Let's move on to the next question. The next question is now on your screen. Which of the following are true about RBI's regulatory changes related to special rupee vostro accounts which have been announced in August 2025? पहला point देखना. RBI made it mandatory to get prior approval? No, sir. Now, earlier, if special vostro rupee account was offered by the bank, in that offering, prior approval from RBI was required earlier, but now RBI's prior approval has been removed, and this is done with the sole motive. This is done with the sole motive to enhance. This is done basically to increase the opening of these accounts, increase the INR international trade settlements and whatnot. So bank can now open SVRA for foreign correspondent banks without RBI approval. That is correct. Relaxation is made at Relaxation is aimed at promoting INR based trade settlement. That is correct. This change reverses the original SRVA account introduced in July 2022. इंट्रोड्यूस्ड इन जुलाई 22, ये तो ठीक है, और उसका जो पहले सेगमेंट था उसे रिवर्स किया गया. तो रिवर्सल वाला जो पॉइंट है दैट कैन बी यूज्ड बिकॉज अर्लियर द अप्रूवल वाज रिक्वायर्ड बट नाउ देयर इज नो अप्रूवल रिक्वायर्ड. सो कीपिंग दैट पॉइंट इन माइंड दिस स्टेटमेंट विल बी करेक्ट. द मूव इज इंटेंडेड टू स्ट्रेंथन इंडियाज फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी इन ग्लोबल ट्रेड. दैट इज ऑल्सो करेक्ट. सो अगर हम उस बेसिस पे वी आर गोइंग टू फाइंड आउट द आंसर्स, तो आंसर्स क्या होंगे? बी सी डी ई, दैट वुड बी करेक्ट. बट यहां पर एक पॉइंट है. वो पॉइंट क्या कि सर क्या ये SVRA वाला जो प्लेटफॉर्म है या फिर जो फ्रेमवर्क है, was it introduced in July 2022? सर जुलाई 2022 में क्या इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ था? सर इन दैट केस द आंसर इज रिटेल इन्वेस्टमेंट वाला पार्ट was introduced back in July 2022. July 2022 में SVRA was not introduced, so that is wrong. So answer is going to be BCE is the correct answer. D option is incorrect. I repeat, Chandrika, you have given the answer B, C, D, E. D option is incorrect. Now I have a question कि सर ये जो स्पेशल रुपी वॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट है, स्पेशल वॉस्ट्रो रुपी अकाउंट है, इट वॉज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड when it was introduced in the country. इस क्वेश्चन का आंसर क्या होगा? सर अगर ये क्वेश्चन हमसे पूछा जाएगा then my answer to this particular question is it was introduced any idea? Anyone? मैंने डिस्कस किया था अपने पिछले क्लास में. दैट इज द रीजन आई एम आस्किंग यू. नो वन? शैल आई गिव यू द आंसर देन? ओके, देन माय आंसर टू दिस पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन इज कि सर ये जो स्पेशल वॉस्ट्रो रुपी अकाउंट है, इट वाज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड बाय RBI and it was introduced back in July 2022 only. So I was just trying to कंफ्यूज यू, और वही हुआ कि आप लोग कंफ्यूज हो गए, लेकिन ये बिल्कुल करेक्ट है गाइज. रिमेंबर दिस, इट इज एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. व्हेन इट वाज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड, और इट वाज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड बैक इन which year? Sir, in 2022. In which month? July 2022 is the correct answer. That is absolutely correct. चलो अगले क्वेश्चन की ओर बढ़ते हैं. कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट रिगार्डिंग द RBI's अप्रूवल टू IRCTC पेमेंट लिमिटेड. इस पॉइंट को अगर हम ध्यान से समझे, so company can now pool customer funds and settle them after a time delay. That is correct. कंपनी को अब अकाउंट एग्रीगेटर का परमिशन जो मिल गया, अब अगर अकाउंट एग्रीगेटर की परमिशन मिल गई है तो कंपनी कैन गो विद द गिवन फंक्शन. तो ये पॉइंट बिल्कुल ठीक है. लाइसेंस enhances IRCTC payment scope to process digital transactions. That is correct. This approval is governed by Payment and Services Systems Regulation 2012. That is absolutely correct. इसमें भी कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. Say yes or no. Do reply in the comment section, guys. उसके बाद अगर हम बात करें, it enables IRCTC payments to act as an intermediary between merchants and customers. That is correct. IRCTC payment body falls under Ministry of Commerce. No sir, it do not fall under the Ministry of Commerce. It falls under the Ministry of Railway. Is this point correct? Yes. सर ये जो पेमेंट एंड सेटलमेंट सिस्टम एक्ट है, दैट वाज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड बैक इन 2007. सो उसके बेसिस पे थर्ड स्टेटमेंट इज इनकरेक्ट. सो द आंसर टू दिस पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन इज गोइंग टू बी 1, 2, 4. दैट इज फर्स्ट ऑप्शन इज एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. ठीक है जी, क्लियर हो गया पॉइंट. आगे बढ़ते हैं. अगला क्वेश्चन क्या कहता है? विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग correctly explain the purpose and features of PFRD upgraded digital platform. So in that particular case, what will be your answer? The CMS enables real-time content update and it is useful for non-technical staff. So CMS जो है ये enable करेगा real-time content update. That is correct. It will be beneficial for non-technical staff. That is correct. It reduces डिजिटल इंक्लूजन बाय लिमिटिंग द वेबसाइट लैंग्वेज ऑप्शन, नहीं सर, इससे तो डिजिटल इंक्लूजन इंक्रीज होगा. द प्लेटफॉर्म प्रमोट्स ट्रांसपेरेंसी एंड एनहांसेस गवर्नेंस इन पेंशन रेगुलेशन, ऑब्वियसली दैट इज करेक्ट. होस्टेड ऑन अ वर्चुअल प्राइवेट क्लाउड, दैट इज करेक्ट. द वेबसाइट रिमूव्स द नीड फॉर कंप्लायंस विद एनी गवर्नमेंट वेब, ऐसा तो कुछ बोला ही नहीं, तो इसमें आंसर क्या होगा, ACD इज गोइंग टू बी एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. गुड इवनिंग, गुड इवनिंग, गुड इवनिंग एवरीवन. So I hope the point is absolutely clear to you. Let's get started with today's session. If you all are ready and you want me to start with the today's session, just give me yes sir, so that we can begin the discussion without any further delay. Chalo, I'll get started with the first point, and the first point is really very important. The first point or the first news from where we are going to start our discussion for the day, it is basically related to what? Sir, it is basically related to RBI's new direction on co-lending agreement. अब इस क्वेश्चन को, इस पॉइंट को स्टार्ट करने से पहले देर आर फ्यू थिंग्स विच यू नीड टू नो, विच यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड, और वो है क्या? So we have a term that is known as co-lending. Then we have a word which is known as syndicated loan. Then we have a term which is known as consortium loan. अब ये जो points है ना, these points are very important. अगर इन तीनों points का explanation हमें clear होगा, इन तीनों points का meaning हमें clear होगा, then only we will be in a position to answer these questions in the examination. तो उसी चीज को टारगेट करते हुए I'll start my discussion with this part. फिर मैं आऊंगा क्या है पूरी की पूरी जो डायरेक्शन है, क्या है उसके बारे में, वो सारी बातें बड़े आराम से इत्मीनान से करेंगे. लेकिन उससे पहले, how many of you have heard a term that is co-lending as well as loan syndication, as well as the third point, that is consortium loan? What is the meaning of all these three terms? So I'll start with the first one. I'll start my discussion with the first one. अगर मुझसे कोई पूछे co-lending क्या है, मुझसे कोई कहे कि भाई explain करो what is co-lending, तो I'll say co-lending is basically a formal, it is basically a formal ex ante agreement. Ex ante agreement का मतलब the agreement which is signed beforehand, an agreement which is signed beforehand, before giving the loan. लोन देने से पहले आपने एक एग्रीमेंट साइन किया. अब आप कहोगे कि सर ये एग्रीमेंट लोन देने से पहले कैसे साइन हो सकता है? उसका मतलब ये है, समझना ध्यान से, कि सर एक कंपनी है, लेट्स से मारुति सुजुकी ने अग्रीमेंट साइन किया SBI के साथ, और ये कहा कि फ्यूचर में जितनी भी गाड़ियां मारुति सुजुकी बेचेगा, और अगर उनमें से कोई आदमी खरीदना चाहता ऑन लोन, इन दैट पर्टिकुलर केस दिस मारुति सुजुकी विल प्रोवाइड द लोन टू दैट पर्टिकुलर बायर, और उसमें co-lending होगी बाय मारुति सुजुकी एंड SBI, in which Maruti Suzuki share is going to be 10% and SBI share is going to be 90% in the total loan. Is this point clear? मैं अभी तक मारुति सुजुकी से गाड़ी खरीदने नहीं गया. I have not reached yet to purchase a car. I have not even yet raised my demand to borrow the loan, but already beforehand Maruti Suzuki as well as the bank, for example I have taken SBI, they have signed an agreement. Under this particular agreement, the Maruti Suzuki is having an NBFC that is known as Maruti Suzuki Finance Company Limited. So this co-lending agreement has been signed between the NBFC of Maruti Suzuki and SBI, that in the near future जितनी भी गाड़ियां Maruti Suzuki से finance होंगी, that finance will be offered by this NBFC as well as SBI collectively, and this is basically termed as what? So this is basically termed as co-lending. इस पे पहला point very important. The first point is really very important, that is ex ante agreement, which means the agreement is signed beforehand. Agreement is signed beforehand, which says that the two organizations or more than two organizations, they will jointly fund the same loan. They will jointly fund the same loan and the loan ratio is pre-decided. Loan ratio is pre-decided matlab, as I have already said in my example, that yes, Maruti Suzuki will be sharing a loan of 10% and rest of the 90% of the loan will be shared by SBI, as I have taken up the example. Remember that the ratio is pre-agreed, the share of revenue is pre-agreed, the risk is pre-agreed in this co-lending agreement. Co-lending agreement में the one who is responsible to provide the loan, who is in the front, is known as originator, and the one who is giving a loan or who is giving the funds from the back end, is basically termed as what? So it is basically termed as what? So it is basically termed as partner regulated entity. पहले जो ये co-lending agreements थे, they were specific. For example, there was a co-lending agreement which has been explained by RBI for priority sector lending only, but now a general priority sector, general co-lending agreement related directions have been presented. Now, what does these directions says? These directions, they basically explain, they basically set the stage that if one regulated entity is signing a co-lending agreement with the other regulated entity, then the norms under which this agreement will be signed, the norms under which this agreement is going to be fulfilled, the norms under which the agreement is going to be exercised, all these norms in general, not only for priority sector, not only for automobiles, in general for all types of retail loans which will be given by the bank, all types of MSME lendings which will be done by the regulated entity. For that particular purpose, co-lending guidelines have been declared by RBI in much detail. ठीक है जी, this is what we call as co-lending. अब the question is, so what do you understand by the word syndicated loan? Syndicated loan basically means a large loan facility, which is basically a large loan facility कि जो loan है वो काफी बड़ा है. There is a large loan facility which is arranged by one or more than one, lead banks, that is syndicated to a group of lenders. तो क्या है कि सर एक syndicated group of lenders है, means we have 10 banks which have already framed a syndication that whenever required, if there is a huge value of loan demand, if it is raised in front of any one of the member, then that member can become the lead bank and that member can present the entire proposal in front of the syndicate. और अगर syndicate को proposal समझ आएगा, then the syndicate as a single borrower, the syndicate banks as a single lender, they will be providing huge value of loan to the given borrower or to the given demanding organization. So there is a single facility agreement and typically an agent bank that administers the loan on the behalf of the syndicate. तो यहाँ पे एक बैंक है जो कि agent bank बन जाएगा और ये जो agent bank है, it is going to perform all the lending operations on the behalf of this syndication of the banks or on the behalf of this syndicated bank. The next point we have is consortium loan. Consortium loan means एक बैंक के पास एक borrower आया और उस borrower ने कहा कि सर I am looking forward for 100 crore rupees of loan. The moment this huge demand was raised in front of bank, in that particular case bank realized that I cannot lend such a huge amount solely to this single borrower. So in that particular case, bank will go and find out other regulated entities which can collaborate with the bank, and then they can jointly provide a loan to the single borrower of value 100 crore rupees. That is known as consortium loan. अब इसको अगर मैं और डिटेल में थोड़ा सा आपके साथ डिस्कस करूं क्विकली, टिपिकली जो को लेंडिंग है दैट इज बेसिकली related to originating regulated entity and partner regulated entity. Syndication में we have lead arranger, we have multiple participating lenders, और custodian में we have group of banks, one act as a agent. Primary use या typical borrowers कौन है सर? In case of co-lending, borrowers are retail borrowers, MSMEs, housing loan, asset finance loan, niche profile portfolios where NBFCs have reached, that will come under the category of co-lending. लेकिन syndicated loan means the loan given to large corporates, project finance, acquisition finance, custodian when large corporate or project borrowers or n number of larger aspects of the borrowers they come in picture. In that particular case custodian loan is introduced. अब इसमें अगर मैं कहूँ बेसिक डिफरेंस क्या है, को लेंडिंग अग्रीमेंट पहले से साइंड है, सिंडिकेट लोन या सिंडिकेशन ऑफ लेंडर्स ऑलरेडी हो चुका है, कस्टोडियम होगा एट द टाइम ऑफ डिमांड. सिंडिकेशन के केस में एनी वन मेंबर ऑफ द सिंडिकेट कैन become as an agent and represent the entire syndication in terms of providing the loan. But in case of co-lending, as per the agreement, one of the regulated entity will act as a originator and the other will act as a participating regulated entity. Clear हो गई बात, समझ आ गया. अब इस context में RBI has come up with the directions, and what all directions have been introduced. Regulated entities which include commercial banks as well as all India financial institutes and NBFCs, now they are allowed to collaborate with other regulated entities for providing loan to the borrowers. For providing loan to the borrowers. Historically, there was no I would say homogeneous framework for all such arrangements. However, co-lending between banks and NBFCs, it has gained momentum after RBI has issued the directions for bank and NBFC co-lending framework, which was supposed to be related to priority sector lending. Now, to expand beyond priority sector lending as well as to provide more clarity to the regulatory guidance to the regulated entities for all types of lending, RBI has issued these revised co-lending agreement directions 2025. The goal is basically to address the prudential aspects, which include risk, capital adequacy, asset classification, and conduct transparency and customer protection. ये point समझ आया? This is really very important. What does it say? It says that कि banks or NBFCs, which they were already included under the category of priority sector, which they were already included under the category of co-lending agreements, which was specifically for priority sector lending. उसके लिए जो guidelines थी that have been already explained by RBI. But now RBI is saying we can now think beyond priority sector lending. Means अगर एक regulated entity है वो दूसरी regulated entity के साथ tie up करती है so that they can collectively provide loan to the borrower, we call it as co-lending. Now the question is, sir, bank NBFC के साथ co-lending agreement क्यों sign करेगा? Why this is going to happen? Because bank is pretty huge. Bank has immense branches operating all over the country, but NBFCs, they have limited number of branches, they have limited area presence. Then why banks they sign co-lending agreements with NBFC? The answer is undoubtedly banks, they are present in the entire country, but region specific reach of NBFCs is much deeper in comparison to a bank. So first is NBFCs, they have reached in more depth, they have reached to the last man in the last village in terms of credit facility. First point. Second point is the loan agreement, the loan conditions, the loan norms which are ought to be performed by NBFCs. They are pretty easy for a borrower to borrow, because of which the importance of NBFC has increased, especially for lower class or especially for the weaker section of the society. A bank उस weaker section of society तक directly पहुंच नहीं पा रहा. So in that particular case, bank can easily sign a co-lending agreement with NBFC, और NBFC को कहे let's sign an agreement. You have a reach, you will become the originator, you provide the loan, and I will become the participating regulated entity. From back end, I will be providing the financial assistance so that the loan can be provided to these specific weaker section or these specific ignored section of the society or unreachable section of the society. समझ आ गई बात? So that is a basic reason. अब NBFC अगर reach कर चुका है उन particular individuals तक, उस particular level तक, why NBFC is tying up with bank? उसका reason है because most of the NBFCs, they don't accept deposits. Most of the NBFCs are non-deposit accepting NBFCs, so they lack of funds. So in order to overcome this fund issues, what they can do is they can sign a co-lending agreement with the bank so that the required funds can be raised from the bank, and that amount raised from the bank can be utilized for providing loan for specific category as described in the discussion. Now, in order to conduct these operations, the guidelines which have been introduced by RBI, these has been revised by RBI because of the powers given to RBI under Banking Regulation Act as well as National Housing Bank Act 1987. तो ये powers RBI को दी गई है that RBI has the power to decide as well as to come up with the norms related to co-lending agreements, and now the guidelines have been very clearly mentioned by RBI. Now you can go through with this entire discussion. एक बार आप पढ़ लोगे clear हो जाएगा. बाकी जो basic point था that has been already made clear to you regarding these three terms: co-lending, syndicated loan as well as consortium loan. Second point is Reserve Bank of India Co-Lending Agreement Direction 2025 is going to be the short name. It is going to be effective from 1st of January 2026 or earlier if an regulated entity chooses. What does it mean? कि आज we have, what is the date? 11th of August. Now let's suppose there is a bank which is ready to implement this on 13th of August. There is a bank which can implement it on 15th of November. One bank can implement it on 15th of December. It's okay. It's okay. It's acceptable. But your implementation cannot go beyond 1st of January 2026. By 1st of January 2026, this is the deadline. You have to implement these guidelines. If you are implementing beforehand, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's welcomed by RBI. All new co-lending agreements after effective date must comply these norms. So once you have either chosen a date to bring these directions into effect, or after 1st of January 2025, all the agreements which are going to be signed under the co-lending agreement category, they will fulfill the norms which have been mentioned in this particular discussion. Now, the next point, which is really very important. So these guidelines are applicable on. So these guidelines are applicable on commercial banks, which include public sector banks, private banks, foreign banks. But these guidelines do not include or do not imply on small finance banks, local area banks, as well as RRBs. These guidelines are also applicable on all India financial institutes, which means if NABARD has signed a co-lending agreement with any other regulated entity like bank or NBFC, then in that case also the co-lending agreement related directions which are mentioned are need to be followed, and same goes for NBFCs as well. In case of digital lending, what is the criteria? It says that let's suppose there is a bank 1, bank 2, they have signed a co-lending agreement as well as they are providing a digital loan. So in that particular case, conditions related to digital lending will be followed as well as conditions related to co-lending will be followed. So both the guidelines will be followed as per their appropriate area of implementation. So co-lending agreements के जो conditions हैं between the two banks, that will be followed, that will be applied, and the digital lending norms which are applicable with respect to lending aspects, that will also be applied on the single loan. Two types of guidelines will be applied that has been clearly mentioned under Digital Lending Directions 2025. But very important, these guidelines are not going to be implemented in case of multi-banking arrangement, custodian lending, or loan syndication. Now, what is multi-banking arrangement? Multi-banking arrangement means a company XYZ has borrowed loan from HDFC, has borrowed separate loan from SBI, has borrowed separate loan for PNB, has borrowed separate loan from Muthoot Finance. So this is known as multi-banking arrangement, where a single borrower has borrowed independently, individually from different lenders. We call it as multi-banking arrangements. In that particular case, co-lending agreement directions will not be implemented. Okay. Second point, custodian lending. In case of custodian lending, co-lending agreement will not be fulfilled, because custodian lending means एक बैंक के पास एक borrower आया, उसको huge loan चाहिए, then bank is running here and there to tie up with different banks so that they can collectively provide huge loan to a single borrower. Syndication, loan syndication means few banks, they have already formed a syndication, which means that they are ready to provide huge loans collectively. So if any one of the bank receives a demand of huge loan, in that particular case, this bank will become the agent bank or the lead bank or the arranger, and it will provide loan on the behalf of the entire syndication to a single borrower. So in case of loan syndication or co-lending, agreements are signed beforehand, irrespective of the borrower, irrespective of the borrowing conditions, but custodian lending is done at the time of borrowing demand is raised. समझ आ गई बात? अगली बार अगर कोई पूछेगा कि co-lending agreement different है in comparison to, या co-lending arrangements different है in comparison to multiple banking agreements या custodian lending या loan syndication, I hope you will be in a position to answer it for sure. If that is the case, give me yes sir. If that is the case, give me yes sir. अगर यहाँ तक कोई डाउट नहीं है, यहाँ तक चीजें बिल्कुल क्लियर है, give me yes sir. I'm waiting, guys. Is that clear? Shall I move ahead? Give me yes sir. If whatever we have discussed till this point is crystal clear, give me yes sir. Okay. Thank you Gaurav, Mrinal, Vaibhav for the reply. Now, moving on to the next point. Next point is, so co-lending agreement का definition क्या है? As I already said, co-lending arrangement basically means a pre-signed agreement between a regulated entity, one which is known as originating regulated entity and the other which is known as partner regulated entity, where they have already finalized what will be the funding ratio. They have already finalized what will be the risk sharing, and they have already finalized that whether the loan will be secured or unsecured, or the co-lending will be done for both the types of the loans. So generally we read different news that NABARD has signed a co-lending agreement with, let's say, Muthoot Finance. So they have already signed the co-lending agreement in which most of the conditions are fixed, that funding ratio will be 80:20, then loan will be given for 5 to 10 years. All these conditions are pre-decided. The moment borrower reaches to the borrower reaches to the Muthoot Finance, then under the co-lending agreement, Muthoot Finance will become the regulated entity, originating entity, and will provide the loan to the borrower as per the co-lending arrangements, as per the co-lending agreements. But there are few conditions. The first condition says that each regulated entity must retain at least 10% of every loan in its own books. So if in order to have skin in the game, RBI has come up with this particular revision which says that if NABARD and Muthoot Finance, or if regulated entity 1 and regulated entity 2, they have signed an agreement. In that co-lending agreement, each entity will be responsible to provide a lending of value greater than or equal to 10%. Below 10%, co-lending agreement will not be accepted co-lending agreement will not come into effect. So the minimum requirement is 10%. There are certain other limits which we need to understand. First one is limit on co-lending portfolio. Limit on co-lending portfolio is what will be the sharing between the two entities, let's say NABARD and Muthoot Finance, 80:20. Limits on co-lending portfolio means what value of maximum loan will be given. Let's say the limit has been decided 20 lakhs. Beyond 20 lakhs, no lending will be done under the co-lending arrangement which has been signed between the two. Then target borrower segments, that what all borrower or what will be the market segment which is going to be targeted under this co-lending arrangements. Then due diligence of the partners, that means NABARD will do all the required due diligence of the Muthoot Finance, because Muthoot Finance is an NBFC. So all the due diligence will be done and the procedure will be predefined, that what will be the process of onboarding a borrower, what all conditions are need to be fulfilled, then only the lending will be done under the co-lending arrangement. So all those conditions are need to be pre-decided. Even it will be pre-decided that who is going to be responsible for the grievance redressal, who will be responsible for resolving the grievances, who will be responsible for resolving the grievances between the bank or between the regulated entity as well as the borrower. So obviously all these conditions will be predefined, that who will be responsible for grievance redressal framework as well. Not only this, other conditions such as lending will be done only secured or unsecured or both, what all types of borrowers will be accepted. So all those conditions are need to be pre-decided by both the entities which are involved. One is the originating and regulated entity, and the other one is partner regulated entity. Next point is loan agreement must clearly disclose. Loan agreement में बहुत clearly पता होना चाहिए, बहुत clearly it should be mentioned which regulated entity will handle which part of the lending. Which I'm trying to say कि मान लो एक बैंक है B1, दूसरा बैंक है B2, इन दोनों ने को-लेंडिंग अग्रीमेंट साइन किया और उस को-लेंडिंग अग्रीमेंट को साइन करने के बाद दे आर प्रोवाइडिंग लोन टू अ borrower C. The moment they will be providing loan to the borrower C और borrower को जो लोन अग्रीमेंट मिलेगा, उस लोन अग्रीमेंट पे it will be very clearly mentioned that bank 1 will be responsible to accept the return. That means you will be returning your loan to bank 1. Bank 2 will be charging charges for keeping your security safe. Bank 2 will be charging the charges for evaluating your security before the lending is done. So all these norms, which entity is going to perform what function, which entity is going to charge what all charges, they are need to be predefined, they are need to be pre-discussed, and they are need to be disclosed in the loan agreement which is going to be provided to the borrower. And even they will identify the single point of contact of the borrower, which means this customer will not be connecting with B1 as well as B2 simultaneously. ऐसा नहीं है एक महीना B1 को रिटर्न दिया, दूसरे महीने लोन का रिटर्न B2 को देना, नहीं. For customer there will be only one point of contact. Let's say the B1 is point of contact, then it will be very clearly mentioned in the co-lending. It will be very clearly mentioned in the loan agreement which is going to be signed by the borrower. उसके अलावा priority sector lending classification can be claimed for regulated entity share if applicable. What does it mean? It means that अगर bank 1 plus bank 2 they are providing loan to the customer and the loan value is, let's say, 12 crore rupees, and this loan is provided for constructing health infrastructure. I hope you remember, for the health infrastructure the limit has been increased from 10 to 12 under the priority sector lending. अब उसमें भी बैंक 1 हैज गिवन अ लोन ऑफ 8 crores, बैंक 2 हैज गिवन अ लोन ऑफ 4 crores. So bank 1 will include this 8 crore loan under its priority sector lending. Bank 2 will separately include 4 crore rupees loan under its priority sector lending category, which is miscellaneous category, which include lending done for social infrastructure creation. पॉइंट क्लियर हुआ कि अगर आपने लोन दिया को लेंडिंग अग्रीमेंट के तहत और को लेंडिंग अरेंजमेंट में अगर आप लोन देते हैं एंड दैट लोन फॉल्स अंडर द category of priority sector lending or it is eligible under the priority sector lending, then it will be allowed to both the entities to enjoy the priority sector lending benefits as well as to cope up or include those lendings under its priority sector lending targets as per the lending share. तो जितना आप लोन देंगे उतनी वैल्यू आपकी प्रायोरिटी सेक्टर लेंडिंग में काउंट हो जाएगी. दैट इज व्हाट हैज बीन क्लियरली मेंशन. अगला पॉइंट है वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, एनबीएफसी इज बुकिंग अनरियलाइज्ड प्रॉफिट्स. इसका मतलब क्या होता है? इसका मतलब ये है कि सर आप बैंक के पास या आप लेट्स से मुथूट फाइनेंस से आपने लोन लिया. सो एनबीएफसी इज प्रोवाइडिंग यू द लोन. द मोमेंट एनबीएफसी हैज प्रोवाइडेड यू द लोन, द मोमेंट लोन इज सैंक्शनड, the moment loan is sanctioned by NBFC, what has been done? So NBFC assume that NBFC will be receiving the interest for next 1 year और NBFC ने उस expected interest को NBFC has already included expected return in profit segment. तो अभी तक लोन मिला आया नहीं वापस, अभी तक एनबीएफसी को ईएमआईज नहीं मिली, पूरी की पूरी ईएमआईज अभी तक नहीं मिली, लेकिन एनबीएफसी ने क्या कर लिया, पहले से एज्यूम कर लिया कि मुझे 1 साल का इंटरेस्ट जरूर मिलेगा थ्रू द ईएमआईज एंड ऑलरेडी दैट एक्सपेक्टेड रिटर्न ऑलरेडी इंक्लूडेड द एक्सपेक्टेड रिटर्न इन द प्रॉफिट. तो जो आपको रिटर्न अभी मिलना है, जो मिला ही नहीं, उसको आपने ऑलरेडी किस में इंक्लूड कर लिया, अपने प्रॉफिट में इंक्लूड कर लिया. वी कॉल दिस प्रॉफिट एज अनरियलिस्टिक प्रॉफिट. दिस प्रॉफिट इज बेसिकली termed as what? Sir, it is basically termed as unrealistic profit. तो अब यहाँ पे क्या पॉइंट आ रहा है? NBFCs which have included interest as expected interest or expected return under its profit, which is known as unrealistic or unrealized profit. That unrealistic or unrealized profit under the co-lending agreement must deduct from capital equity, from common equity tier 1 capital or net owned fund for meeting the regulatory CAR until the loan matures. तो इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब ये है कि अगर NBFC ने unrealized profit under the co-lending agreement include कर भी लिया अपने profit में, if they have included in the profit, that will be included in the capital of the NBFC, but that amount will not be included while calculating the capital adequacy ratio for common equity tier 1 capital, as well as it won't be included while calculating the net owned fund. समझ आ गई बात? Is this point clear? ये point थोड़ा सा टेक्निकल है, इसे समझना इंपॉर्टेंट है और यहाँ से क्वेश्चन बनने के पूरे चांसेस है. What I'm trying to say is, यहाँ पे ये कहा जा रहा है कि सर लेट्स सपोज एनबीएफसी ने लोन दिया अगस्त 2025 में एंड एनबीएफसी हैज ऑलरेडी इंक्लूडेड 1 लाख रुपीज इन इट्स प्रॉफिट एंड दिस इज 1 lakh rupees is the interest which NBFC is going to receive in 1 year, in upcoming 1 year from the borrower. अब पता नहीं borrower फ्यूचर में लोन वापस करेगा नहीं, EMIs देगा या नहीं, EMIs टाइम टू टाइम भी देगा या नहीं, बट NBFC ने पहले ही वो 1 लाख रुपए अपने प्रॉफिट में इंक्लूड कर लिया। आरबीआई कहता है कर लो, आपको करना है आप कर लो, मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, लेकिन ये 1 लाख रुपए जो कि आपने प्रॉफिट में इंक्लूड किया, जो कि आपकी कैपिटल का पार्ट बन जाएगा, मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, लेकिन इस 1 लाख रुपए को आप इंक्लूड नहीं करोगे वाइल कैलकुलेटिंग कैपिटल एडिक्वेसी रेशियो, और इसे आप इंक्लूड नहीं करेंगे वाइल कैलकुलेटिंग नेट ओन्ड फंड, बिकॉज ये पैसा एक्चुअल में आपके पास अभी आया ही नहीं। तो जो पैसा आपके पास एक्चुअली अभी तक आया ही नहीं, यू कैन नॉट इंक्लूड दैट वाइल कैलकुलेटिंग दी आई वुड से corrective measures like capital adequacy ratio or net owned fund. Is this point clear, guys? आरबीआई ये नहीं कह रहा मत करो, आरबीआई कहता है करो, मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, मरो जाकर, whatever you want to do you do, but while making the calculations as mentioned you won't be including them, or you won't be including the unrealized profit as a part of your capital, या फिर the amount which you have already added as an unrealized profit will be deducted while calculating the capital adequacy ratio or net owned funds. बोलो क्लियर है, समझ आ गया? If it is clear, just give me yes sir, give me a thumbs up so that I can move ahead. And if you haven't liked the session yet, I would request you quickly hit the like button. And if you have any doubt, you may ask please. Escrow account पे अभी हम आएंगे, उसका भी यहाँ पे रोल है. I will be coming to that, but right now I'll go one by one. I hope it's clear, Dhananjay. Escrow account का रोल है, I'll come to that. अगर आप ये कहना चाह रहे हो कि NBFCs can keep those unrealized profits in its escrow account, तो वो प्रॉफिट आया ही नहीं तो उसको रखेंगे कैसे? तो इसको तो बस आपने सिर्फ और सिर्फ अपने बुक्स में इंक्लूड किया है, बट एक्चुअली द फंड्स हैव नॉट फ्लोन इनटू योर accounts. So in that particular case, it should be deducted while calculating common equity tier 1 capital, or while calculating the net owned funds for meeting the regulatory capital adequacy reserve ratios until the loan matures. क्लियर होगी बात? ठीक है जी. अगला पॉइंट क्या कहता है? इंटरेस्ट रेट. कि सर अब इंटरेस्ट रेट कैसे कैलकुलेट होगा? अब इंटरेस्ट रेट कैसे कैलकुलेट होगा, ध्यान से सुनना. मान लो एक बैंक है और एक NBFC है. Sir, NBFC is charging rate of interest of 14% per annum. Bank is charging a rate of interest of 10% per annum. Now, the weighted average will be the lending rate on the borrower. Weighted average means, let's say, borrower is borrowing 10 lakh rupees, and out of 10 lakh rupees, 90% is given by bank, 10% is given by NBFC. So, in that particular case, how weighted average lending rate is going to be calculated? So it is going to be calculated in this manner. 10% per annum is your rate of interest, and what is your amount of lending done? 90%. 14% is your rate of interest. What is your amount of lending done? 10% divided by 100%. Divided by 100%. तो 1% से 1% कट गया. So we have 900% plus 140% divided by 100. So we have 1040% by 100. So it comes out to be 10.40%. तो यहाँ पे जो lending rate है which is going to be charged on the borrower is going to be 10.40%. Why? It is close to bank's lending rate because bank is the majority lender. And if bank is the majority lender, so more weightage will be given to bank's lending rate in comparison to the weightage which will be less for the NBFC lending rate, because NBFC lending is only 10%. 10% से नीचे NBFC जा नहीं सकता as per the latest norms which we have already discussed. So this type of rate of interest where we calculate weighted average lending rate is known as blended rate. So it is blended rate, which means weighted average of the rates charged by each regulated entity based on their funding share will be termed as blended rate. So if the question is asked in case of co-lending agreement or arrangement, how the loan or how the lending rate will be decided, so it will be decided on the basis of blended rate. Next point is all extra charges included in annual percentage rate are disclosed in the key fact statement. I hope you know what is annual percentage rate. So annual percentage rate is lending rate plus charges, and when we calculate lending rate plus charges in the percentage form, we call it as annual percentage rate. I'll give you an example. Let's say 10% per annum is the lending rate for a loan of value 10 lakh rupees, and the loan charges are, let's say 50,000 is the loan charges which are charged. So in this case, in order to calculate the annual percentage rate, 10% का मतलब कितना इंटरेस्ट हो गया एक साल का, 1 लाख रुपए, 50,000 आपका क्या है खर्चा हुआ या चार्जेस जो आपको पे करने हैं, 10 लाख से आपने डिवाइड किया तो ये आ गया 1.5 लाख, तो इसका मतलब 15% आपका क्या निकल के आया, सो 15% इज गोइंग टू बी योर एनुअल परसेंटेज रेट। समझ आ गई बात? Yes, Dhananjay, blended rate or weighted average lending rate, which I have calculated with the help of this formula, is known as blended rate, which will be followed to calculate the co-lending arrangement lending rates. Is it clear, everyone? किसी को कोई doubt है क्या? What is blended rate? How is it calculated? If you have any doubt, you may ask, please. Else, I'll move ahead. Next point is fees for lending services. Fees for lending services means loan processing fees, loan servicing fees, loan recovery fees must be decided, must be pre-decided. कितनी होगी? Plus who is going to receive it. Who is going to receive it means दोनों में से कौन उस फीस को रिसीव करेगा? जो सर्विस देगा वही फीस रिसीव करेगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आई एम द entity which is going to process the loan. So if I'm processing the loan, I will be charging the processing fees from the customer, and that fees will be credited into my account. I am the NBFC. रिकवरी का काम बैंक करेगा, तो रिकवरी के लिए जो फीस है that will be paid to the bank. अब ये जो फीस है that can be पेड इन सच अ मैनर, जो फीस है मान लो कुछ फीस ऐसी है जो कस्टमर पे करेगा, कस्टमर ने कुछ फीस पे की, वो फीस डिवाइड होगी बिटवीन द बैंक एंड एनबीएफसी इन्वॉल्व्ड इन को लेंडिंग. ठीक है जी. इवन बैंक और एनबीएफसीज दे आल्सो पे फीस टू ईच अदर ऑन द बिहाफ ऑफ प्रोवाइडिंग द सर्विसेज. अब रिकवरी के लिए, लोन रिकवरी के लिए कस्टमर तो कोई फीस देता नहीं है कि ये लो सर मुझसे लोन रिकवरी के लिए कुछ फीस रख लो, कल को अगर मैंने पैसा नहीं दिया तो आपका खर्चा होगा, आपको एजेंट भेजने पड़ेंगे मेरे घर पे, तो उस खर्चे को ओवरकम करने के लिए आप मुझसे फीस ले लो, ऐसा तो होगा नहीं. लेकिन अगर बैंक रिकवरी कर रहा है तो उस केस में जो फीस है दैट शुड बी शेयर्ड बिटवीन बैंक एंड एनबीएफसी, और एनबीएफसी अपना शेयर ऑफ फीस देगा बैंक को. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, टोटल एक्सपेंस which is going to be done for recovery is, let's say 10,000. NBFC का share 20% है in the total loan, so 2,000 rupees will be paid as a fees sharing by NBFC to Bank 1 for the purpose of recovery services. So fees for lending services must be clearly mentioned, objective and transparent, and cannot include any credit enhancement or default loss guarantee unless explicitly permitted. तो ये जो आपकी फीस है, इस फीस में क्रेडिट एनहांसमेंट का मतलब क्या होता है? अगेन इट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टर्म, प्लीज पे अटेंशन. इफ समवन आस्क यू व्हाट डू यू अंडरस्टैंड बाय द वर्ड क्रेडिट एनहांसमेंट, सो क्रेडिट एनहांसमेंट बेसिकली मीन्स additional layer of security or guarantee to improve the credit worthiness of the borrower or project or financial instrument, which will make it more attractive for the lenders or the investors. मतलब क्या हुआ? अगर मैं कहूं कि जो आप मान लो आपका बैंक है, बैंक क्रेडिट एनहांसमेंट करता है. क्रेडिट एनहांसमेंट का मतलब कि आई एम प्रोवाइडिंग अ लोन to this entity, and if you want to become a co-lending partner, you can become, and I will be providing you credit enhancement. Credit enhancement का मतलब अगर फ्यूचर में लोन वापस नहीं आया, अगर फ्यूचर में लोन default हो गया, then that particular case bank will try its level best to compensate the losses. So that is known as credit enhancement. Even that, we have one more term which is known as default loss guarantee. Default loss guarantee का मतलब क्या? Bank one is giving default loss guarantee to NBFC. That means originating regulated entity is giving डिफॉल्ट लॉस गारंटी टू द पार्टिसिपेटिंग रेगुलेटेड एंटिटी कि अगर कल को बोरोर ने पैसा वापस नहीं किया, देन आई विल बी रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू फुलफिल द लॉस. बट वो लॉस फुलफिलमेंट 100% नहीं होना चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर वो 100% हुआ तो ऑब्वियसली पार्टिसिपेटरी या मैं कहूं कि जो सेकेंडरी पार्टीज हैं उनका काउंट तो बहुत तेजी से इंक्रीज होगा. एवरीवन विल बी ready to become a co-lending partner because they are very well aware, they very well know कि अगर कल को लोन वापस नहीं आया तो भैया originating जो अथॉरिटी है that will compensate the entire loss. तो इसी को compensate की लिमिट के लिए आरबीआई ने कहा कि it can be up to 5%. So what could be default loss guarantee which can be provided by originating regulated entity? That is up to 5% which can be provided to the partner regulated entity. लेकिन इसका मतलब ये होता है कि अगर मान लो ओरिजिनेटिंग रेगुलेटेड एंटिटी ने 10 करोड़ का लोन दिया और उसने अप टू 5% का डिफॉल्ट लॉस गारंटी दिया, तो 5% ऑफ 10 करोड़ कितना होगा? 50 लाख होगा. तो टोटल लॉस का अगर मान लो पूरा लोन एनपीए में चला जाता है तो उस लॉस में 50% का कॉम्पनसेशन या 50 लाख रुपीस का कॉम्पनसेशन कौन देगा? ओरिजिनेटिंग रेगुलेटेड एंटिटी देगी. दैट इज व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से. तो यहां पर ये लिमिट भी प्रीफिक्स कर दी गई है बाय आरबीआई. एंड व्हाट इज दिस लिमिट? दिस इज द लिमिट. ओरिजिनेटिंग एंटिटी may give default loss guarantee up to 5% of loan outstanding under co-lending arrangement DLG terms to follow the same rules as we have discussed in the digital lending directions. अब उसके अलावा there are few conditions. First one, partner regulated entity must irrevocably commit to take its share of loan ऑन अ बैक टू बैक बेसिस. इसका मतलब क्या कि अगर मान लो बैंक ने टाई अप किया एनबीएफसी के साथ या एनबीएफसी ने टाई अप किया बैंक के साथ, अब एनबीएफसी will be providing n number of loans under this co-lending agreement and bank will be taking up its shares in all the lendings one by one which is done by the NBFC. The share must be reflected in the books of the bank, that is in the books of the partner regulated entity within 15 days of disbursement. मान लो आज एनबीएफसी ने 11 अगस्त को लोन डिस्पर्स कर दिया, तो 26 अगस्त तक वो लोन बैंक की बुक्स में रिफ्लेक्ट होना जरूरी है. अगर वो रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं हुआ देन इट वोंट बी इंक्लूडेड अंडर द कैटेगरी ऑफ को-लेंडिंग अग्रीमेंट. ट्रांसफर ओनली टू अग्रीड पार्टनर रेगुलेटेड एंटिटी एज मेंशन्ड इन दी की फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. ये तो पक्का है कि भैया आप ऑब्वियसली जो भी आप लोन देंगे और लोन का जो शेयरिंग ऑफ बर्डन है दैट विल बी डन बाय द पार्टनर रेगुलेटेड एंटिटी ओनली. If transfer fails within 15 days, if you do not transfer the loan or that loan do not reflects into your bank's balance sheet or into your partner regulated entity balance sheet in 15 days, then loan will remain with the originating regulated entity only, and that regulated entity will become the whole and sole owner of that particular loan. But regulated entity can sell that loan under the transfer of loan exposure direction 2021. समझ आ गई ये बात? दोबारा समझा देता हूं क्या कहना चाहता है, ये पॉइंट ध्यान से सुनना. ये पॉइंट कह रहा है कि मान लो एक एनबीएफसी ने टाई अप किया बैंक वन के साथ फॉर को लेंडिंग. 11 अगस्त को लोन दिया गया, तो बैंक के बुक्स में ये लोन बाय 26 ऑफ अगस्त विजिबल होना चाहिए. इसका मतलब बैंक शुड ट्रांसफर इट्स शेयर टू एनबीएफसी एंड एनबीएफसी विल ट्रांसफर द लोन responsibilities to Bank 1 and it should reflect in Bank 1's books by 26th of August 2025 as per the example. But let's suppose if it do not reflect in 15 days, if the funds are not transferred in 15 days, then in that particular case, NBFC will become the sole owner of that particular loan. And if NBFC want, NBFC can sell this loan, NBFC can sell this loan to the other entities which are eligible, and that selling of the loan to the other entities which are eligible will be done under the transfer of loan exposure डायरेक्शंस 2021. ठीक है जी. एक पॉइंट और है, अब मान लो बैंक ने भी अपना शेयर दे दिया, एनबीएफसी ने तो शेयर दिया ही था और ये लेंडिंग हो गई अंडर को लेंडिंग. अब को लेंडिंग होने के बाद अगर नियर फ्यूचर बैंक वांट्स टू एग्जिट, in that particular case bank can easily exit, and bank can exit by selling its lending share to another bank, or bank can even sell out its lending share to NBFC if it is sold out to the originating authority. We call it as interstate transfer, otherwise we call it as transfer of loan exposure if the lending is, or if the loan is transferred to some other entity. तो अगर आप किसी और entity को transfer करोगे, it will fall under the category of transfer of loan exposure directions 2021, and here it will be termed as interstate transfer if you are transferring the loan entirely to the originating authority, to the originating regulated entity. Each regulated entity maintain borrower account for its share. Each entity should maintain different separate अकाउंट फॉर इट शेयर, जहां पे अब मान लो EMI 10,000 है तो 2,000 EMI जाएगी 20% वाले को, 8,000 EMI जाएगी 80% लेंडर को, एंड दे विल बी crediting these EMIs in the separate accounts. All transactions are going to be routed through escrow accounts. All transactions are going to be routed through escrow account का मतलब क्या? If we have Bank 1 and NBFC, in that particular case, either this Bank 1 can open up an escrow account where they both will first deposit their funds from this fund account, loan will be given, and the entire security information or the securities, they are kept in this escrow account only. This escrow account can be opened up either by, this escrow account will be opened up always and always by a bank, not by an NBFC. Now this bank which is offering you the escrow account service, that could be the part of co-lending arrangement, or that could be any other bank which is providing you with the service of escrow account against fixed charges. तो जो ये escrow account की आपको requirement है, या तो वो जो बैंक बीच में इन्वॉल्व है वो प्रोवाइड कर रहा है, या फिर कोई और तीसरा बैंक प्रोवाइड कर सकता है, लेकिन एनबीएफसी कैन नॉट ऑफर द एस्क्रो अकाउंट सर्विस. रेगुलर ऑडिट्स करने होंगे, बिजनेस कंटिन्यूटी प्लान लाना होगा, केवाईसी नॉर्म्स आर नीड टू बी फुलफिल्ड, रिपोर्टिंग करनी होगी. ईच रेगुलेटेड एंटिटी मस्ट रिपोर्ट इट्स ओन शेयर ऑफ लोन to the Credit Information Company as per the Credit Information Company Act 2005. उसके बाद asset classification, what does it means? Let's say NBFC is the originator, Bank 1 is the partner regulated entity. So in that particular case, if NBFC has not received the installment for 0 to 30 days, that means NBFC will classify that loan account as special markup account or special mention account 0.0. The same category will be maintained by bank. If no installment is paid for 31 to 60 days, NBFC will mark this account as special mention account 1.0. The same information will be shared by NBFC to bank, and bank will also mark the same account as special mention account 1.0. If no installment is paid for 61 to 90 days, then it has been mentioned as special mention account 2.0 by NBFC. Same will be done by bank. The moment loan is declared as NPA by NBFC, same information will be transferred, and bank will also declare the same loan as NPA. So this means if one regulated entity marks an exposure as special mention account or NPA, the other regulated entity also do the same for its share. Near real-time sharing of default information is mandatory by the next working day, so that both the regulated entities, they are on same page. Both the regulated entities, they are on same page. So any owned loan can be transferred, any owned loan can be transferred under the transfer of loan exposure directions 2021. Transfer to the third party generally require mutual consent of originating and partner regulated entity, and if originating entity is receiving the entire loan on its name from the partner entity, then we call it as inter se transfer. तो अगर तो inter se transfer है, then it's fine, but if it is transfer to the third party, then transfer to the third party will be done only if originating regulated entity as well as partner regulated entity approve it, accept it. Then certain disclosures, public websites disclose all active co-lending arrangements. Financial statements must disclose loan quantum, weighted average interest rate, fees paid, fees received, sectors financed, loan performance, as well as the detail of default loan guarantee, as well as details of default loss guarantee. This framework will obviously replace the co-lending by banks and NBFC to priority sector lending, because now we don't have, now RBI has not come up with any specific sector related co-lending arrangements. Rather, the co-lending arrangement have been introduced in general, which will be applicable for different sectors, for different segments. So you can go through with the previous co-lending arrangements for priority sector lending and you can compare it with the new ones. Major difference is minimum retention was 20%, which has now reduced to 10%. This is minimum. This is very important. Next is operational timelines were flexible. Now there are fixed timelines. In 15 days, you have to transfer the burden on the partner regulated entity. It should reflect in the partner's regulated entity's book within 15 days. Otherwise, it will be included or it will be done under the transfer of legal exposure only. Is this point clear? I hope the point is absolutely correct. So अब क्या प्रोसेस फॉलो होगा? सबसे पहले अग्रीमेंट साइन होगा. अग्रीमेंट साइन होने के बाद अग्रीमेंट ओरिजिनेट होगा, फिर लोन सैंक्शन होगा, डिस्पर्समेंट होगी, ट्रांसफर होगा लोन शेयर का बिटवीन दी ओरिजिनेटिंग एंड पार्टनर रेगुलेटेड एंटिटी, फिर इंटरेस्ट और फीस हैंडलिंग शेयर होगा, लोन सर्विसिंग होगी, मॉनिटरिंग होगी, रिपोर्टिंग होगी और डिफॉल्ट लॉस गारंटी प्रोवाइड की जाएगी एंड इन दी completion of the loan will be closed. These are the steps which are going to be followed. Let's try to solve few questions. First one, which of the following statements are correct? Effective date for co-lending arrangement is 1st January 2026. That is absolutely correct. Minimum retention requirement is 20% per loan. No sir, it is 10% per loan. Applies to all commercial banks except small finance bank. It allows default loss guarantee up to 5% of outstanding loan portfolio. That is correct. Borrower sees a single blended interest rate. That is correct. Borrower के ऊपर एक single blended interest rate आएगा. That is correct. So answer is going to be 145. Third is incorrect क्योंकि it is not applicable, Gaurav, on small finance banks. Operational requirements under co-lending agreements identify the correct statements. Partner regulated entity must book its shares within 15 days. Yes sir, that is correct. If transfer fails, loan remain with the originator and follow transfer of legal exposure norms. That is correct. Escrow account usage is optional. No sir, it is not optional. KYC can be relied upon from partner regulated entity. Each regulated entity must maintain separate borrow account. That is correct. Each entity should maintain separate borrower account. That is absolutely correct. KYC can be relied upon from partner regulated entity. That is correct. लेकिन escrow account usage optional है. नहीं सर, ये mandatory है. So answer is going to be 1245 is the correct answer. Clear हो गई बात? समझ आ गया? तो आज इतना ही करते हैं. अगली क्लास में we will be moving ahead. I have this news for you which I will be discussing in the next session. And even I will be discussing the next news in the next sessions. But In the PDF, I will be sharing few questions which I will state them as homework questions. So take a screenshot. As in कौन से ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस का डेट, अच्छा डेटा चेंज हो रहा है, मुझे डेट लगा. हाँ, आपके एग्जाम से पहले आपको डेटा सारा मिल जाएगा, डोंट वरी. एग्जाम से पहले यू विल गेट द डेटा, डोंट वरी. ठीक है जी, क्लियर हो गया पॉइंट. इसका स्क्रीनशॉट ले लो. डन. आई होप यू हैव टेकन द स्क्रीनशॉट. सॉरी. अगले क्वेश्चन का स्क्रीनशॉट लीजिए. टेक द स्क्रीनशॉट ऑफ द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. I want you to share the answers in the comment section below for third, fourth, and the last question, that is the fifth question. So take the screenshot of the fifth question as well. So third, fourth और fifth question के answers आप share कीजिए in the comment section. I will be giving you the correct answers in the comment section as well as in the next class. जैसे हम अगली क्लास में start करेंगे, in the starting of the session, I will be discussing with you the answers for the questions which I have given you as a homework. Clear हो गया जी? Clear हो गया? If you have any doubt, you may ask please, else we'll conclude the session. Thank you so much for joining, guys. We'll catch you in the upcoming sessions to go. Good luck. See you all. Bye-bye. Take care. God bless you.